So there's more WWE 2K25 updates and details that I think might surprise you and surprise me for what is coming with the game. We had the initial reveal, but now there's even more information that is circulating, and it's coming in the form of the developer interviews. This one's coming over from godisageek.com, if I'm saying that correctly, probably not. So the first topic that they're talking about is going to be one of the new match types is the Underground. So this Underground match type, you got a screenshot right here where it's showing off Sami Zayn and Carmelo Hayes. Unfortunately, their attires are not updated. But I want to pause there for a second and keep in mind that it could just very well be outdated attires for a lot of these superstars, but these screenshots and things that we see for reveals are usually pretty early in development, but you never know. So with the Underground and in this interview, they did talk about what the new match type is all about. So in the article, they say how the Underground match type involved a lot of rework of the mechanics, which seems obvious because this is going to have no ring ropes and there's a lot of NPCs, a lot of players just sitting around on the ring side. They said, for example, the Underground match sees a ring without ring posts and ropes. See, nailed it. Derek Donahue, the lead combat designer at Visual Concepts, said, quote, "The idea of a ring without ropes has completely upended how combat works in the game, and that's something you're going to feel immediately when you get into the match. The interactions at the edge of the ring are completely reworked, and this is something that helps both underground matches and fighting outside the arena in brawl arenas. So it's not just going to be how things have changed up in mechanics for just the Underground match type, which I assumed was going to be, hey, you can't get out of the ring and you're basically just having a no exit match that results in like a submission or knockout. But it is interesting that Derek's talking about how the fighting mechanics that we experience for brawl and outside the arena are going to change a little bit. The article continues by saying the crowds will also interact differently during these matches as well. The fans banging on the mat, bringing carnage to the arena. So I really like that they're going to change it up. It's not just going to be seeing the little people like they're going to be in the crowd where they're just chanting. I love that idea, which makes me wonder if they're going to have, you know, people sitting ringside for the Underground match and they're smacking on the mat like they do. Would that also be the case for your managers in a regular one-on-one match, or you got multiple managers in a match? Could we see them be more interactive? That and those types of elements are the things that get me excited, because they're just little details that I'm glad that they can update. So it has me intrigued. Underground is not this big match type where like I'm personally just like clamoring for. Watch a little bit on NXT, but I've never sat here and thought this is on my wish list. And you know what? Maybe it'll be super surprising and I'll absolutely love it. But there is a match type that I've been very curious about how this is different from anything else we see in the game. The Bloodline Rules match was announced by 2K, and the article talks about what's exactly involved in it. So we know that Bloodline Rules matches are a common thing. You know, you got Roman and you got Sammy, or you got Jay and Jimmy, and you got all these guys in the ring, and then we go through about 15 minutes of wrestling to end result into a ref bump moment, and then, you know, shenanigans come in. Solo comes in eventually and spikes people. So the article talks about how while it does indeed feature no DQ, etc., there's a mechanic that allows each superstar a total of 3 run-ins during the match, which take the form of a payback ability. Once you reach the right number of gauges to use a run-in, that's going to trigger somebody to come out to help in the Bloodline Rules match. This has me super interested. One main reason is that this is a feature that I have been wanting them to integrate in all of the match types, mostly just the one-on-one matches with run-ins. My issue with run-ins in the game is that they're non-existent. Like, you can't be in charge of when the run-ins will occur and who's coming out. This sounds like it's kind of in line with that idea in terms of you're going to be able to fill up your meter, get the payback ability, and trigger a run-in. Now, a question mark I have is, which superstar is going to come out to help you? Is it just anybody that is your ally? Or is it going to go from like, you know, your primary ally, then number 2 and number 3? Like in a Roman match, is Jay primary number 1 ally, so he comes out first when it's triggered, then Jimmy, and then like Sammy? Or do you get to pick who comes out? So this changes the dynamics, and it's for 3 each, which makes sense because in a one-on-one match, we have up to 3 managers on either team ringside, but this makes it really, really interesting to change the type of matchups you will have, and not having to use all of the breakouts and the interference in every single match. This honestly just makes me feel like I'm just gonna have every single match, my one-on-one matches are all Bloodline rules matches, because I want to be able to have the ability of do run-ins when I want to. The article also talked about intergender wrestling. So we have intergender matches, which is another big one that's coming out this year. And I was surprised to learn that they are allowing it for like across all the matches. And one of the things they talked about here is that there's exclusive titles for intergender wrestling. The article talks about how there's exclusive titles for intergender wrestling. Derek also revealed that there will be titles to unlock that both male and female superstars can compete for. I think this is great. This kind of feels like, you know, up, up, down, down titles where they have those custom belts in there. But you know what? I really like that. That's adding more flavor to all of this, and that you are able to have those custom titles that go for either male or female, which tells me that in Creation Suite, for custom created championship, assuming it's there again this year, that you would be able to just designate and say, do I want this to be a male championship, female, or both? Which makes it really cool that we could just have it across both brands. I can have a world title and I can have Rhea Ripley go after it, or it can be Jey Uso. The article states that there will also be some other options with regards to intergender wrestling that unlock the more you play. So that's an interesting little wrinkle there, is that it's not just straight up you get every feature of the intergender matches, that there's going to be more to unlock along the way. I like it. The reason I like it is because I got something to work for. Continuing on with intergender wrestling, they gave an example of like if you want to relive R-Truth entering the Royal Rumble, now you can. There are no restrictions on what superstars can compete in any match. So we can have R-Truth in the Women's Royal Rumble and Rhea can go into the Men's Rumble. They said the only restriction is the mixed tag match, as that features a strict rule set. So this will be interesting once we get our hands on the game of, could I do a Money in the Bank ladder match for men and women? Split, 3 women, 3 men, and they're competing for just Money in the Bank, and then whoever gets, that's going to be interesting. I wonder if that'll break the game, but that does broaden it. And if you're somebody that's looking forward to intergender matches, like, you got really no restrictions there. I thought it would be down to like 1v1 and that would be it. So it's really kind of, it's one of those things where I'm like, I'm interested to see what you're going to be able to do, but the variety of custom championships that work across male and female superstars, that's a win. And I think that having unlockables in there, that's really cool. Okay, the other thing we saw in the preview trailer was going to be Seth Rollins doing a barricade dive. And on top of that, we actually saw in some of the screenshots of Rhea and Dom that were doing an intergender match. Speaking of which, you could see in the background that the LED barricade, it was also looking worn down. So taking damage over time as the barricade starts to like break down. So barricade dives, like they were showing off. The article talks about how barricade dives have their own allocated move sets. For those of you looking forward to dive off the barricade in 2K25, some details were revealed about it. Superstars have their own move sets when it comes to jumping off barricades. The article talks about how the LED barricade, those boards will get damaged, the ones that are surrounding the ring. So the more that players actually throw their opponents into the barricade, the more damage it's going to take. So not only are we getting specific move sets for the superstars to be able to pull off different moves, I love that they're doing the barricade dive. It's a new thing that they're going to be able to do for players. It adds more dynamic to it, especially you have high flyers, you have people that are known to do those types of things and on TV, and now you can actually do it. Okay, the next one the article talks about was MyGM. Now the big news that we did see or hear about is going to be that MyGM is going to have 4-player online, which really does surprise me, honestly. I thought that we wouldn't see online for MyGM for quite some time because online in general in these games is not very good and not very stable. So I kind of thought, hey, that's a pipe dream. You'll never see it. And then if I did see it, I thought it'd be one other person, 1v1 online. Get up to 4. Now they talk more in this article about what added features are coming. So the article talks about how MyGM is getting cross-brand PLEs, and trading in MyGM has come a long way since it was introduced. So Alan Flores, the design director at Visual Concepts, said, quote, "We're also adding cross-branded PLEs too, which sort of plays into the betrayal part, because now you sort of like can put your own superstar against each other. We have a bunch of new GMs, a bunch of new dramas involved as well. So there's going to be a lot of backstabbing, a lot of complaining superstars. They do that a lot in the chat for MyGM. You know, people trying to trade each other, all that type of stuff is going to be featured in it. I have a lot of questions still about MyGM. 4-player online, fantastic. Adds a new dynamic to the whole thing. More GMs, I suspected that. Hopefully Nick Aldis is in there. Maybe different arenas or venues that you can use as your primary shows. Cross-brand PLEs does make it interesting to be able to have, you know, your superstar, to have Cody Rhodes go over to SmackDown, vice versa, to compete in a match. Does that change the dynamic, I wonder, of rivalries? I have a rivalry of Punk and Cody, and that's happening on Raw. Can Cody just go over and have a match on SmackDown? Or can he start a rivalry with somebody on a competing brand? Okay, one of the big things that was confirmed, and this was in the trailer, but then we had to wait and see, and we heard more about this. The slingshot tech from Showcase mode, it's gone. They got rid of it. So slingshot tech was where you'd be in Showcase mode, having a match, and then halfway through, you trigger a cutscene, and it would go to the real WWE footage, and you would sit there and just watch that for like 2 minutes. And it just never ended, and you have generic background music. It wasn't very fun. So this is a huge positive, and this is the feedback from players from the community that, hey, we don't really want this anymore, and we want to have real in-game cutscenes going on. So they did that. Dino, who is the designer of Visual Concepts, who works on Showcase mode, I've actually met Dino, and he's really, really nice. He's awesome. Dino said, quote, "We wanted the emphasis on Showcase this year to really be more about playing than it is watching." I think that was kind of what we were hearing the last few years. Yes, you were. So this time we want to really give it back to the player. So they talk more about Showcase mode, and they say that there will be 3 outcomes for matches in Showcase. Dino talked about this in the interview more and saying that there is a 3-pronged approach for the Showcase matches. The article says that you can finish each match how it finishes in real life. So Cody winning at WrestleMania 40. You can also try to change these matches by getting the other person or team to win, and you can also play in dream matches. So with the 3-pronged approach to Showcase, number 1, great. Wonder what they do with any cutscenes, or does it stick with just the in-match moments? If you're gonna do WrestleMania 40, Roman versus Cody, and you can have Cody lose again, how does it change? That's my curiosity, is like, do I just beat Cody Rhodes? Or do I, if I'm Cody, do I just allow Roman to beat me? And then how does it change in the end? Calling for interference. Then as it says here, it's by getting the other person or team to win. So could I lose the match on purpose and that changes the cutscene or the outcome? And the dream matches, I'm thinking of like Umaga as an example, or The Rock, Final Boss. How does that play into Showcase other than maybe there are just dream matches they have added into the Showcase mode? The article continues to talk about backstage brawls. They say that you can now have 8 players involved in backstage. There have been some restrictions in the past that has meant these epic brawls backstage can't go above a certain superstar limit, but now there can be a total of 8 involved. So I think that's great. I hope the backstage environment is getting some love, because if it's just the same backstage environment, but now it's up to 8 players, that's cool. I won't be doing it very much. So I hope that they add in some maybe new mechanics or new areas or sections, stuff you can do to make it a little more lively. Because if you're gonna have 8 players in basically the exact same environment, I don't know how much I'd be playing that. Now, this next one has me very interested, because this is new. This is groundbreaking, as they like to say. But third-person camera. The article talks about how the third-person cam is going to be revolutionary. Initially added to follow superstars out as they make their entrances this year, 2K has embodied the third-person cam and taken it into every match. So this is going to be very interesting of how this is going to work within matches. So Derek over at Visual Concepts says, quote, "When you're climbing to the top rope, when you're running on ringside, when you're climbing to the top of Hell in a Cell, being able to follow the character all the way up and really feel like you're embodying them rather than standard kind of broadcast view, or the classic Grand Cam broadcast view that we've had in previously." Derek continued by saying, so it's just a whole new way of kind of playing and immersing yourself in the game. It's had some control changes, they say. They continue to say that the right stick controls the camera, but it also does other things in the game, other things in gameplay. And they say that they feel like they've found a really good compromise with the way that it works. They say that there's just one new button you have to press to kind of unlock the right stick actions, but normally right stick is going to control your camera, and it takes like a second to get used to. They continue on to say that once it clicks, you're just playing the game like you normally were with a totally new view. Love this. I love presentation, making things accurate, immersing yourself in any game, but in the wrestling games, it's something you don't really get. The example of Hell in a Cell is interesting because normally it is just that giant wide camera. You're really taking aback and you're far away from the action, clearly. So the fact that I could press on the right stick, assumingly, and then I could flip the camera so that I am in this third person perspective, that makes things extremely interesting. Also with just matches, like that's just for the camera to swing around. But if I'm on the outside and I am fighting and brawling, if I can click for third person perspective, am I watching my character doing full brawls, punching, doing moves, and following me. Like if I do a suplex on the outside, is the camera going to pull back a little bit from behind me so that I can see the whole suplex happening? This makes things really interesting and cool to change up camera dynamics so that your matches, they feel different, they will look different. That update to the presentation to me matters, so it doesn't feel stale all the time. Okay, then the article also has this giant archetype that's been added. They say it's a brand new way to play. So the article says that where previously there have been 4 archetypes in wrestling, the new giant one brings new ways to both play as and face. They have an additional health bar, but they can't do any high flying spots, and combos are going to be limited due to the stamina being needed to initiate them. So I love this personally because you're getting it to be more authentic. Andre the Giant should not really be able to climb the top rope. Andre is the classic example. I love that, because that is true to how it is. Now, I'm sure you'll be able to go into the settings, and if you wanted to adjust their settings, maybe you can do that if you want to turn it off so that you can have guys like Andre or Braun Strowman climbing the top rope just doing splashes and drop kicks. But to be able to have that in the game also changes, I think, the dynamic of gameplay in your match, especially if you are playing as a giant character. You're not going to have the ability to do those high spots if you would do them in the past. So it changes how you would approach a match, I think. I like that, and it also keeps things more grounded and realistic. So what do you think about all of these surprises, I'll say, because these are things that I didn't expect to see in the game? What are your impressions overall? It has me interested. The gameplay elements changes that they're talking about across the board tells me that those are the real things that they're focusing on, the quality of life improvements for this year. And for more 2K25 news, click this video right here, going through every version of the game that was announced, what's included, what you get, and more details and news. Have a great day. See ya.